We're here to debate this question of creation versus evolution. What is the most credible, reasonable, scientific explanation for origins, creation or evolution?
It's 20 years ago now, but there are aspects of it that I remember very clearly. I remember the anticipation of it. It was quite exciting. I was looking forward to what I was hoping to be a very stimulating scientific interchange, and it was a subject that I was relatively new to, and I was very much looking forward to seeing, if you like, the two heavyweights slugging it out. And I remember getting there, and the place was buzzing.
I'd have to say that it was alive. You could see there was a lot of passionate people in the audience. A lot of pro-evolutionists, and there'll be a few Christians there too. And it progressively got more animate, as I think Dr. Plimer got more animate. Yeah.
So I obtained a copy of the debate on videotape from a friend of mine, another skeptic up in Canada. And when I watched the debate and compared it to what I read in the summary of the debate, I found that there were a number of occurrences where the description of the debate did not match what actually happened. And I ended up writing an article called Some Failures of Organized Skepticism, which pointed out some cases where people arguing for skeptical views of things misrepresented information or made various errors of fact or conducted poor quality investigations. And that was one of them. And in fact, I characterized that as the worst example of skeptical failure that I've yet come across.
I was with my wife. Well, at that stage we weren't married. She had invited me out for this interesting debate. She introduced me to the subject of the whole issue of creation and evolution. It hadn't been a subject for me previously. She'd given me some material, that actually a lot of it from Duane Gish, and she said, "Look, there's a debate coming up, and Duane Gish is going to be there. Would you like to come along?" And I was very interested.
At the time, I would describe myself as atheist. My whole worldview was I was very much into the humanist philosophy. You know, my friends were that way. You know, we were skeptics when I was younger. You know, creationists would come to our school, and we'd go there, and we liked to heckle them. You know, I mean, it's in hindsight, it's embarrassing, but that's what we did, and we took our worldview very seriously, though.
The auditorium was packed, and I think people they were excited, expecting a lively exchange between an evolutionist and a creationist.
Duane Gish had the opening speech, and he presented an argument supporting his ideas on creation and pointing out some issues with evolution that he thought were problems.
We come here tonight to generate light and not heat. Of course, one of the byproducts of generating light is some heat, but we trust that this discussion will be congenial. We trust that Dr. Plimer and I can agree to disagree and still part friends tonight. What we are here for is to inform. And so we trust that as you leave this evening, you will have been informed, you'll find it interesting, and perhaps you will have gained a new perspective on this subject of origins.
At this time, I probably had 100 debates throughout the United States and other countries, and generally the exchange is cordial, and sometimes it gets a little testy. However, Dr. Plimer had no intention of having a cordial exchange of views.
The fossil record. Now, if evolution is true, of course, we should have thousands, tens of thousands of undoubted transitional forms in our museum. There should be no quarrel about it. There should be no dispute. I wouldn't be here tonight. We would have the absolute proof of evolution into tens of thousands of undoubted intermediate forms or partway forms.
Of course, I had spent my time in explaining the nature of the fossil record, how complex invertebrates suddenly appear fully formed, no trace of any ancestors. The fishes likewise appear fully formed. There's no question, there's no trace of any ancestors for these complex invertebrates or the fish.
When Professor Plimer came up, he didn't engage the debate at all. He just launched into this vitriolic personal attack. which took everyone by surprise.
He had brought a little booklet that was published back in about 1973. That was 15 years before. And it's obviously, it's not referenced as you have with a scientific book. He would turn a page or two and say, that's a lie, that's a lie. Then he'd turn another page, that's another lie.
Continuing with page 9. Billions of highly complex animals just suddenly appear with no signs of gradual development from lower forms. That is a lie. So we have now had 55 words and 5 lies. 1 lie every 11 words in his publication.
Here's a book that he should have used in this debate. Actually, this book that I have was published 3 years before this occasion. This book is completely referenced where you can check the statements given by the scientist to see if it's accurate or if changes had taken place. We had this little booklet, which is, scientists, professors just don't use things like that. And that set the tone for the whole the debate then.
When we allow our creationists to talk science, if we press them for an answer and follow it to the end, we get idiocy. When we look at their publications, we have 1 lie in every 11 words. When we look at their public performance, they fabricate the data. We have uncleanliness coming out of the mouth of a false prophet. With their teaching of science, it is based on fraud, on perversity.
Then I was speaking about the second law of thermodynamics and so forth, where if you have the universe is an isolated system, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that it could go in one direction and one direction only, and that's downward. It decays. It could never convert itself from simple to complex. Well, he challenged this, and he had 2 wires heavily insulated. At one end he had the bare wires, and the other end he had a plug. He's going to plug this in and challenge me to grab hold of that to see if it would happen, what I would predict. Well, I would never predict any such thing, that you take raw energy and something goes from simple to more complex. That precisely my case is that doesn't happen. It's the evolutionists who claim that you start with raw energy and simple things and you create life and things like that.
Now, I would also like to demonstrate with this the second law of thermodynamics. If Dr. Gish touches this wire, we go from cranial disorder to prostrate order. That is the second law of thermodynamics.
The audience was in an